Assassin's Creed has always been pretty brutal when it comes to finishing moves. In one of my recent videos there was a big discussion about who is the most brutal protagonist in the franchise. So I have decided to do a ranking myself. Who is actually the most brutal one in the franchise? That is what we're gonna talk about today. So let's get started. On the last place is Aveline De Grandpre. I originally planned to leave her out of this ranking, simply because she's a mix of Connor's and Haytham's combat animations, which is actually a shame, since she's also capable of fighting with many weapons. In the end of the day, she's still a main character in Assassin's Creed, so I'll honor her and mention her in this video. Last place go to her. As much as I hate it, Shay Cormac is unfortunately in the 15th place, and for the same reason as Aveline De Grandpre. Because in his case, with a very few exceptions, he has the same animations as Edward Kenway, which is a real shame because the few he does have are actually pretty brutal. Here are some few examples of what I mean. Rank 14 goes to Naoe Fujibayashi. I think Naoe embodies the perfect assassin, fast and efficient. While there is a lot of blood, I don't find her as brutal as I'm used to from other protagonists. She doesn't waste much time delivering the final blow to her opponents in combat. I would have preferred much more brutal finishers for her, especially since I'm used to the cool shinobi finishers from For Honor. For that reason, Naoe lands on the 14th place of my ranking. Rank 13 is Altair. Altair also fights more like a classic assassin, trying to kill his enemy as quickly and efficient as possible. Compared to many others, he's not as brutal, but I have to defend him a little bit. We are still talking about Assassin's Creed 1 here. If we take that into account in our rating, the finishers are really good. And by the way, the game has more finishers than AC Shadows. Enjoy some more finishers from Altair before we continue. Next up we have Arno Dorian. He's like Altair Naoe. He kills his enemies as quickly as possible, wasting no energy or time. Especially since he fought in a time where every soldier was an excellent swordsman and everyone was equipped with a pistol. Meaning every blow counts. He was also skilled at fighting with many different weapons. For example, an axe, a spear or even a rifle. Enjoy some more finishers before we continue. The next on my list is Basim Ibn Ishaq. In my opinion, he has probably the cleanest executions of all, but sometimes not brutal enough to reach the top of the list. The fact that we only have one weapon with him and he still have a relatively large number of finishers in the game still makes me happy, as I'm addicted to kill animations and you probably should know that. You can clearly see that Basim is definitely better at stealth, because he also kills his enemies as quickly as possible. Basim has one of my absolute favorite finishers of the franchise, which I'm going to show you now. As much as I hate to admit it, Bayek is the next in my ranking. Unfortunately, Bayek has far too few finishers to rank him higher, but he does have some brutal finishers and he has them with so many different weapons. If Bayek had 50% more finishers for each weapon type, he would probably be in my top 5. But as it is now, I can only give him the 11th place, as the few finishers we do have are simply not enough, which is a shame because he's, in my opinion, one of the strongest protagonists in the franchise. And unlike the others, he defeated his opponents with much more force, probably because in his time people were physically much stronger, because people couldn't rely only on weapons. And again, enjoy some more finishers before we continue. Next on my list is Ezio from Brotherhood. For me, this vision of Ezio is the perfect mix of precision and efficiency, while still having some pretty brutal finishers. Ezio kills his opponents pretty quickly while still maintaining his brutality, causing guards to run away from him in fear. Unlike others, he is brutal with any weapon, even with his hidden blades. For me, this is the perfect vision of an assassin. He doesn't waste much time and tries to use his momentum to punish and finish his opponents quickly but harshly. We have two more visions of Ezio in this video that are far more brutal than this one. That doesn't mean this Ezio isn't brutal, but trust me, this is just the beginning. The truly brutal protagonists are coming after this. Enjoy some few more finishers before we move on. Next on my list is Edward James Kenway. As Blackbeard said, Edward fights like a demon possessed by the devil. Edward has only one goal when fighting: kill, no matter how. He has a very unstructured and wild fighting style, which makes him very brutal when it comes to fighting. Furthermore, very people are capable of fighting with two swords at the same time, which further underlines his unusual fighting style. I have enough footage of his finishers to make the entire video about him. Edward has a wide variety of weapons to fight with, and each one is extremely brutal, from an axe to his hidden blades. You really feel every attack because he fights so widely and fast. He has a mix of effective and very unusual finishers, which makes him a very dangerous assassin, because he's very good in both categories, not like many others who focus more on stealth. Kassandra is the next one in my list. Since she's a Spartan, it's pretty clear that she's an excellent fighter. She kills any enemy without mercy and literally executes them in the most brutal way possible. Unlike others, she doesn't kill her opponents with one blow, but rather makes them suffer before they die. You might think she's not that brutal, but don't forget that she's arguably the most brutal character when it comes to stealth takedowns. Here are some few examples. If we are only talking about the finishers, then Kassandra might be not so high in my ranking, but she stands out with her brutal stealth takedowns thanks to her spear. Together with her finishers, she is more brutal than many others. Next up is Ezio from Assassin's Creed 2. This Ezio is in my opinion the most inexperienced protagonist we'll ever play. You can really see how little experience Ezio has in combat. His fighting style is a mix of hatred and vengeance, which leads to him killing his opponents very brutally. I know many of his finishers appear in other games too, but in my opinion they fit this vision of Ezio better. What makes him so different from many others is that he sometimes even makes mistakes while killing his opponents, and he has no coordination at fighting at all. What I really like about this Ezio is that you are sometimes surprised how he sometimes kills his opponents. But there's another vision of Ezio that's far more brutal than the other two. So stay tuned and check out 3 of my favorite finishers from this vision of Ezio. Let's move on to the Frye Twins, in my opinion a very underrated duo who are much more brutal than many people remember. They break arms and legs like it's nothing, and they can execute double, triple and even quadruple finishers, showing absolutely no mercy. They either kill their opponents or make them never walk again, all with just 3 different weapon types, of which the Kuki is my favorite one. It's a real shame that AC Syndicate wasn't a big success for Ubisoft, because the ability to perform triple and quadruple finishers was an absolute dream for me. Even today, I can't get enough of it. If you haven't played AC Syndicate yet, I can only recommend it to you, because it's the last Assassin's Creed with the old formula, and there's even a patch for 60 FPS for the PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. Let's move on to my personal favorite, Adewale from the Freedom Cry DLC for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. For a very long time I've said that Adewale is by far the most brutal assassin, and the crazy thing about it is that he only has new animations for his machete and his blunderbuss. The rest, unfortunately, was taken from Edward Kenway, which is understandable, of course, since we are talking about a 4-hour DLC here. As you can see, Adewale is very brutal, and I'm sure if the DLC had been released today, arms, legs and heads would definitely fly off with every finisher. If Adewale had his own finishers for the hidden blades and the additional weapons, I would 100% put him in the first place. His unique animations are enough to put him so high in my list. And I'm pretty sure you will agree with me. For me, Freedom Cry is the best DLC for Assassin's Creed to date. And this time was also my personal pick of the series. Next up we have Connor Kenway. Don't think I need to explain much here, and I think he'll be on the first place on many of your lists. Connor's literally a one-man army who is absolutely unstoppable. You can see the fighting style of someone who hasn't learned any techniques but still makes his kills look so cool and brutal. These kill animations and this game is also the reason why I've always wanted to do Assassin's Creed videos like these. Strictly speaking, I owe everything to Connor Kenway. I could watch this for hours without getting bored, and sometimes I even hope to find some more new brutal animations in this game. No matter what weapon he uses, Connor is absolutely brutal with it. The only reason Connor is higher than Adewale on my list is because he has a lot more kill animation of his own. Watch some more finishers before we continue to my top 3. In third place we have Ezio from Revelations. For a long time I didn't even notice how brutally he actually was, especially with the sword of the Vlad the Impaler. I even uploaded a video that goes into exactly why Ezio was so brutal. Ezio is also very brutal with the regular sword and with his hook blade. I think many will agree with me after these finishers. In my opinion, Ezio fights like this because he was so tired. Like he was just sick of fighting Templars and wanted to kill them as brutally as possible to get rid of them. Enjoy some more finishers before we continue. I had to think long and hard about who would be the more brutal protagonist between Eivor and Yasuke. I watched all the finishers possible and decided like this. Decided to give Yasuke the second place. Of the few finishers he has, he probably has one of the most brutal I've ever seen. The reason I can't give Yasuke the first place is because in my opinion, he simply doesn't have enough finishers, which is an absolute shame since For Honor, a game made by Ubisoft, has so many finishers for exactly Yasuke's weapon types. When you compare him to all the other protagonists in Assassin's Creed, it would be unfair not to rank him as high as I did. Last but not least, Eivor takes the first place. As expected from a Viking, Eivor kills his enemies as brutally and gloriously as possible. He often uses his opponent's weapons to strike them down, and here too he shows absolutely no mercy doing so, making you feel a bit sorry for his victims. I could make a video just about Eivor's finisher and it would take over 10 minutes at least. I can't get enough of Eivor's finishers, and I think it's a shame that especially after AC Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Shadows got so few finishers in comparison. That was my ranking, I hope you enjoyed it. Who do you think is the most brutal protagonist in Assassin's Creed history? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.
Anyone see the bastard did this?
Take me.